off again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Good morning, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say I'm joined by SUPERMAC and Gibbo this morning as we look ahead to Newcastle United's Premier League fixture against Brighton and, of course, look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And, Mal, we got off to a winning start last week. A good, positive, solid performance.
Well, yes, certainly in the second half. There was a lot of chances missed in the first half. Dear me. And I really wasn't impressed up to half time, but things did change in the second half. And I have to say that both goals for totally different reasons were absolutely superb goals. They really were. A fabulous strike from Shearer, and of all places, it wasn't. He didn't put it in the far corner. He went for the near post from 26 yards. Dear me, that's incredible. And I thought Wilson, the way in which he controlled that one touch that he had, and just looped it up and over the keeper with so much spin on it. I thought it was absolutely delightful. Oh dear, I would have been seriously proud of that one myself. I really would. It was beautifully done, so delicate, so skillful, and yet so effective.
Yeah, John, 3 points on the board. It's all you can ask for in the first game. Clean sheet as well. Nick Pope, of course, who was the legend on Twitter last night. Lots of people tweeting about Nick Pope. I think he was globally trending third in the world last night. Bit bizarre, but anyway. But yeah, look, he had very little to do, John, and 3 points on the board is what counts, mate.
I mean, we were totally dominant. I mean, possession, 62% possession to Newcastle. I mean, we're not used to that. We're used to a side where we give the ball to the other side and we hope to counter-attack. I mean, at times we had so much of the ball. I think we thought, what the heck do we do with it now? Because there was no end product, so we'll keep regurgitating it. But 62%. Of possession. Shots was 23 to us, 5 to them. Corners were 11 to us, 1 to them over the whole game. And so it was totally dominant. My only concern was where the goals were going to come from, because we were coming up to the hour before Shaw had the terrific strike. And as Malcolm said, both the goals were absolutely superb. But I was wondering where the goals were going to come from. I thought we dominated the middle of the park. Bruno, Joe Linton and Willock, who was a bit of a surprise to me. I would have probably gone with Sean Longstaff. Shelvey would have got the nod, wasn't able to. Willock, for me, took his opportunity. He was always going to be outshone to a certain extent by the two Brazilian boys. Bruno's just on a different planet to anyone else. But we dominated the thing. I must say that Forrest, a rag bag of his side, they're like 11 strangers. They were thrown together and expected to gel as a team. That was never going to happen. But you can only beat what's in front of you. And this is it. What I love about it, this is a different side this year. And the emphasis I'm putting on is this year, 2022. Because the first half of last season, we were horrendous. But this year, 2022, there's so much togetherness, there's so much high pressing, we're so fitter than we were. There's a great desire. And for me, I like the expression, we press to impress. We press high, you've got to be fit, and we impress as a result of it. I'm trying to earn me money as a hacker, Malcolm. I heard you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if you don't mind the pun, I'm impressed by that remark.
He had some big decisions to make last week, Mal. I mean, the big one we talked about was, of course, the goalkeeping situation. Nick Pope or Martin Dubravka. Of course, Nick Pope got the nod. And the centre-half's position as well, I think probably surprised most people because he did go for Dan Burn and he did go for Fabian Shearer. And, of course, Fabian Shearer, as you've already mentioned, scored a wonderful goal to get Newcastle up and running.
And he played well throughout, I thought.
What did you make about the goalkeeping situation? Right decision?
Yes. Yeah, without a shadow of doubt. I don't have the confidence in Dubravka that I once had, and the reason for that is it goes back to that international match where he let in 5, and he wasn't just letting them in; he was almost throwing them in, and he was dropping stuff all over the place. One, I think the first one, he dropped it over his shoulder and then it went into the net. And from that game, he's never been the same. He's never been the confident Dubravka that we used to know previously. And I don't think he's recovered from it. I still think there's a nervous edge on his game, and there's no nervousness about Nick Pope whatsoever. He's totally in control of his area, and lets everybody know.
I might have a little bit of bad news for you, that being the case, because I'm told that Nick Pope has picked up a knock very late in training yesterday.
Oh, no.
And is a doubt for today. He's not out, but he's a doubt.
Right.
And that would be Dubravka, of course.
Oh,
so
dear me.
I've just upset your morning cup of coffee, Malcolm.
Oh, well, yeah, but okay. Yeah,
he might still make it, but there's a doubt there.
Yeah, Dubravka's an excellent number 2 to come in and do a job. I just haven't got the confidence in him that I used to have prior to that international match. And I don't think he's got the confidence in himself that he had prior to that international match. I think it seriously affected him. But nevertheless, we're well served, I think, in the goalkeeping department right now. Well served.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've done that because I couldn't find that anywhere, John, about Pope. I've got to be honest. And I was at the gym this morning. I haven't.
The situation.
Yeah,
it happened after the press conference, Steve. The press conference took place without that being announced because they were training, and he took a knock. How bad that is? Settle down and plays. But there's a definite knock, and there's a late look at the situation, and obviously the answer would be Dubravka would go in and Darlow would sit on the bench if that is the situation. The centre-halves were interesting just because Botman was left out. It's the old thing that he did with Bruno, isn't it? If you come from abroad, he sits you on the bench and lets you look at the pace of the game, the intensity of the Premier League, etc., etc. If you come from the Premier League, you go straight in the side. We had all that in January with Byrne, and Trippier went in the side because Aloy came from Spain. He was well versed in the Premier League with Spurs and before that with Burnley. But he's done that with Botman. Pope went straight in the side because he'd been playing in the Premier League at Burnley last season, but Botman didn't. I mean, the biggest two things, first of all, it was absolutely nailed on that Shaw and Byrne start today. Shaw scored the wonder goal and was terrific. Byrne was a colossus, as he always has been, and you're hardly going to drop Byrne today when you're going back to Brighton, are you? His old club. I mean, it's big time for him. So those two will stay together. It's a matter of Botman looking at things. I mean, he come on the 90th minute. I looked up the first time that Bruno come on. What a surprise! It was 90 minutes. This is like you'll get on the field, so you etc. But then the whistle goes. But I mean, perhaps call me cynical, but I then look and fans have said to me, "Well, when does Botman get in the side?" And I've got an awful suspicion that he gets in the side the game after the next, after today. Why do I say that? Because we've got Man City up here with Haaland, running quicker than Usain Bolt in his pomp if both were centre halves who don't like pace, and he'll run away from him. So one of them will get the chop after that game, and Botman will come in at Wolves. I know we've got the League Cup in between, but Botman will come in at Wolves. That's which one for is a different shout, of course.
That would be one hell of a game to give him his debut, wouldn't it?
I don't think they'll give him his debut against Man City. I think he'll get his debut as a consequence of that.
Yeah.
When Howe's got an easier choice on which one goes out to make way for Botman.
Yes.
They'll be on top. I mean, Haaland, good gracious me. Malcolm, you were quick and you're a centre forward and you're a finisher. Did you see this fella at West Ham?
Yeah.
Both on the penalty he got and the goal, from a standing start to 12 paces in, he was so quick. I was terrified.
His movement off the ball. His movement off the ball, John, is frightening.
Oh, he's so athletic. His movement is frightening, and his pace is terrific, and he can finish. Now, there's a load of things that we like in centre forwards, but we haven't got too much beneath Callum Wilson. But I mean, he is frightening, and Shaw and Byrne don't like pace. Who does? But they don't like pace, and therefore I think they will be standing on the hangman's trapdoor, and one of them will go through after the game, and Botman will miraculously be picked. Maybe Sven, who was a tad upset because all these folks were across, that he didn't get his debut in the opening game. Maybe when he got home and he looked at the fixture list and he saw Man City coming up and he watched Haaland at West Ham, he thought, I can wait till Wolves. I'll just wait till the Wolves game, and I'm happy with that. Okay, boss, I'm okay.
Big injury news this week, Malcolm, was that John Joe Shelvey is out for 3 months, and there's talk from Eddie Howe in the press conference yesterday of keeping him in the 25-man squad, naming him in the 25-man squad. Is that a good decision? Because obviously that means that we've got an injured player sitting there who won't be able to feature, of course.
No, and exactly. But obviously Shelvey remains sort of generally within the plans of the manager. So yeah, I can understand why he's included him in the 25. Personally, I probably would have gone a different route, and I wouldn't have included him. But I really don't see how Shelvey can fit into the way that Newcastle are playing their football right now. And the reason why I say that is that he lacks pace totally. And Newcastle, their movement is quick. Shelvey would slow all that down.
The interesting thing, of course, guys, on the Shelvey situation is that the Premier League 25 for the first half of the season hasn't to be named until after the September 1st deadline on transfers. And Howe has indicated that he will wait. And if it becomes apparent after Shelvey's operation, which he's already had, that he's going to come back slow, he could still leave him out at 25.
Right.
If he looks as if he could just play in late December or something when we come back from the World Cup, then he'll put him in the 25. And one of the reasons I think that he could afford to put him in the 25 with an injury is that without us signing anybody, the fella that would cover adequately for him, Elliot Anderson, doesn't have to be in the 25 because of his age and because he's homegrown. He would be in the under 23 squad, but will still play in the Premier League. So in effect, his cover for Shelvey in that midfield would be Elliot Anderson. He doesn't need to be in the 25, so he can then perhaps keep Shelvey in the 25 if there's a chance of him playing just around the Christmas time before the new lot happens in January. So that would be the reason for that. I mean, I agree with Malcolm. somebody said it's a heck of a blow. I think, Shelvey, I think it's only a blow numerically. I don't think it's a blow, because Bruno and Joe Linton will nail on 2 of the 3 positions. And then you've got Willock or Longstaff or Elliot Anderson for the other one. So it is not as big a blow as, well, for example, if we lost our centre forward to injury, that would be catastrophic.
Don't go putting the mockers on it, John.
No. I'm just trying to be grateful that the injury, if it come, wasn't to him. But yeah, I mean, we want everybody to be fit, but it's not as big a blow. And it's not as big a blow as it would have been, say, 2 years ago, or 2.5 or 3 years ago, when Bruce was fielding Shelvey and making him captain and fielding him all the time. He is not now the number 1 midfielder. However he operated, good or indifferent, he was the number 1 pick in that era for midfield. He is not that anymore. Bruno is, and Joe Linton, player of the year, is. So it's not the blow it once was, and we can cover the situation a little with Elliot Anderson.
Yeah.
You mentioned Joe Linton, and I thought he had a terrific game as a midfielder last Saturday. But when he got near the box, his finishing was absolutely dreadful. It really was. He was mishitting his shots, and yet the rest of his game has been fabulous. But oh dear, when he gets to the edge of the box,
that's why we don't have him in there all the time now, Malcolm, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's why he isn't in there all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, he was my man of the match last week, and I've got to be honest, special mention, although I know some Newcastle fans wouldn't want to give him a special mention, was Jack Colback, because I thought Nottingham Forest were completely disorganised at times.
Yeah.
No the wonder, it's putting a whole team of strangers together in a lot of ways. But Jack Colback really stood out last week, Malcolm. I thought he had a decent game.
Yeah, he did, and I thought he was the best Forest player on the pitch, but that's perhaps not saying very much, because I've never seen such a shambolic team at Premiership level ever before. And the icing on that very sour cake was that free kick. He could die laughing after that. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the free kick where they all gathered in the centre circle?
Yeah.
And then they started making a run, and the fella knocked the ball in too early. And they hadn't even got into the penalty area when Pope was catching the ball, for heaven's sake. Never seen anything quite like that. So disorganised.
Hey, if Brighton want to play like that today, I'm more than happy, mate. I'll settle for Brighton doing it.
Yeah,
I suspect they won't, because their
quality are totally the reverse, aren't they, of that?
Yeah, their quality. Their quality in the way they play.
Yeah, by heavens, they are so well organised and structured.
Interesting technique this week, Mal, by Eddie Howe. He's had the players watching some footage of Newcastle United in days gone by. In particular, the entertainers' days, and right. Eddie Howe confirmed that he's going to have Kevin Keegan at some point come and meet the players and give a talk to them. What's your views on that?
I've never heard the like before, but why not? Why not? Kevin Keegan, as a player, as a manager, has vast experience and would make a lot of sense, I think, to the current players. Although current players are usually somewhat suspicious of the previous generations, and the game is very different now to what Kevin Keegan played, to what I played, and the current players will see those differences hugely. You know, we might see them a lot smaller, but they see them hugely. But nevertheless, Kevin's a fascinating bloke, I think, to have in your dressing room, and he's always been a very, very positive guy in terms of football, and so but then. Have the likes of Botman and Bruno ever heard of Kevin Keegan?
I think the idea that Eddie Howe's trying to do, guys, is not so much this is a legend talking about football, or these are the tactics Newcastle uses entertainers, because KK didn't know anything about tactics. He didn't play 5-a-side. He just picked good players and took them. The idea, I think, is to get over. I mean, Howe said we shouldn't, which I thought was a nice phrase, we shouldn't live in the past, but we should recognise the past.
That's lovely.
Which I think is a good phrase. Is a good phrase. And I think what he's trying to do, Mal, is get over to the lads what this club means, what the fans were like when they got behind the entertainers, and basically the enthusiasm of Keegan and his ability to get a dressing room lifted, nothing to do with football tactics or whatever, but that, you know, this is what the town means. Keegan was very good at embracing that, and that's the response you got back from the fans when they had that sort of situation. And I think it's part of that camaraderie between us and them, that's the dressing room and the fans, that he's trying to recreate. And of course, he does things unusual ways, Eddie, which is quite interesting and I quite like. Remember and it happened again after Forest, you know, the old team photographs of everybody, including the kit man and the tea lady and the bootlaces and the directors and everybody in the team group in the dressing room after a win, looking as if we've just won the FA Cup at Wembley or even the Champions League. And everybody has a little scoff at that, but it's part of trying to mould a team spirit. And I think this is part of that. And he did use the phrase, which I loved, was that you shouldn't live in the past, but you should embrace and understand the past.
Yeah,
and respect it within your club, and I think that's good.
Sure, yeah.
Something that, of course, you know, Mike Ashley just, you know, wanted to dissolve the past and get rid of it. So it's a huge turnaround, a big turnaround.
Mike Ashley got rid of the present and the future, never mind the past.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's on the pitch and around the ground. It's going well. I want to broach something that Tommy, a guy who I know I speak about Newcastle, me and him speak Newcastle virtually every day, and he mentioned about the youth coming through, Malcolm, at county level, and I'm not going to name the guy, I'm not going to name the young player, but the County Cup final in the Northeast. And Newcastle United aren't on the sidelines. They're not represented. There's a player who's starred in the cup final. The county team won 7-1. Kids scored a hatful of goals in the build-up and in the final. And there are scouts from various clubs down there. Newcastle weren't represented. And essentially, that kid is now signed on a contract for Burnley. He signed a contract for Burnley Football Club. So I just want to know, Mal, you know, your thoughts on that, because I know Rome isn't built in a day, but surely this should have been something that was being done with the club in previous owners. They should have had the scouts. You know, the scouts should be checking out local talent. They should be down there looking at these things and not allowing good players to go further afield. Newcastle should be snapping up the best players.
Well, yeah, but Newcastle were doing quite the reverse, because it all starts from the facilities that you create and provide. And Newcastle, under Mike Ashley, didn't upgrade the training facilities, the training ground, when they had to, and so they were demoted. They were demoted down the levels. Now that when that happens, that affects your ability to be able to sign young players. That the higher level, which includes Sunderland and Middlesbrough, that they get the preferential choice over Newcastle, because Newcastle were at a lower level. And so and Mike Ashley didn't seem bothered about that at all. Steve Bruce certainly wasn't bothered, because as a manager, you should ensure that you are, if you're playing at the top level, you want everything top level, all the facilities, all the training ground, and so on and so forth, the travelling facilities, everything, and it all went to pot. And I think it's going to take Newcastle quite a while to get back up to that higher level with youth, and the rules are very specific. Newcastle were actually relegated and told that they had to stay there for at least 3 seasons, and as far as I'm aware on this, and that they had to improve their facilities and bring them right up to scratch. And of course, they're still. I know that there is a new training ground underway. And I think that's maybe because that it just wasn't feasible to make those improvements at the old training ground that they're currently using. And so I think that the club has realised the faults of the past, and they're trying to put them right, but it's going to take time. And so, yeah, when it comes to signing kids, that they're very much, that there are terrific controls within the game set by the FA now, and so and Newcastle, they just didn't match up to the facilities and to everything else that Middlesbrough were offering, Sunderland were offering. Middlesbrough, their facilities are absolutely top class. There's probably not better anywhere in the country. So, and that leaves Newcastle a long, long way behind.
John, it's something that they need to get a grip of moving forward, though, isn't it, really?
Yeah. We haven't got a history in recent times of signing and covering this area and getting the great kids out of this area. I wrote a book, Soccer's Golden Nursery, way back in the 70s, which was talking about Northeast football and all the great players that the Northeast has produced, from the Charlton brothers and Wilf Mannion and Dave Thomas and everybody all over the place. And Jack
Armstrong.
Yeah, Jack Hickson, who was a clerk at British Rail in the Central Station, took a whole team of players to Burnley, who finished second in the First Division with all the Geordies in, starring Dave Thomas, Ralph Coates, and everybody up, down, and sideways. You can't get them all, but you've got to get more than your fair share. Now, there's so much work for the new regime to do in attacking all levels, like the first team level immediately. Like, what else do we need in this window to be able to keep progressing in January to even survive in the Premier League? And they're still trying to get it right at other levels. But we've got to get the best kids. The only thing I would say on this lad, and you didn't name him, and you are absolutely right to do so, Steve, because you protect the kid in one thing or another. We have either missed a huge talent, or we ought to have known about him, and perhaps did long before the County Cup final, and maybe we'd scouted him and decided he's not for us. You know, we've got to be fair to the Newcastle United regime that we've got now, and can't presume that they didn't know anything about this kid. They might have looked at him for 4 games and decided they don't then have to look in a county cup final. You know whether you think he can play or not. But it could be a miss. I'm not slurring the young man, because I don't know who he is and I don't know if he can play, etc. But he's got a club, and that's terrific, and that's good. But as a sweeping generalization, yes, there's so much of this club. This club has been run down, not at one level, like not just St. James's Park, or not just the training ground, or not just the first team, or not just we're not getting the kids. It's been run down at every single level. There's not one level of this club that stayed high. There's not one level that stayed high. And when you think that Mike Ashley bought this club out of the halls who had produced the new look St. James's Park up to 52,000, which had produced the entertainers, which had produced 2 successive Premier League runners-up finishes, that had produced, even though John had retired, the 2 cup finals at the end of the 70s with Shearer. They had produced
the 90s
sustained height. And this was run down so badly in the next 14 years that we're starting from scratch again. We're starting from scratch again. So there is a lot of catch up to be done.
Yes.
But I tell you,
it's going to take time, John.
Oh, but I mean, you know, you look at the new directors, you look at the new manager, Eddie Howe, you look at the new sports director, Dan Ashworth, who I met at the game on against Forest and had a very long conversation with. You look at Eels, a lad that's just coming in from America, from Atlanta, who used to be at Spurs. We are doing things about it. That is the good news. We are attacking not just the first team, but the structure of the club in terms of Charnley being taken over by Eels. The fact that we've got Dan Ashworth to look at things. The club is moving. And I tell you what, at a rapid rate of knots, because when we entered January the 1st, when we entered this calendar year, we were still going down. We got knocked out of the FA Cup at home by Cambridge. We were still going down. We had no director of sport. We had no top man, Eels had just come in, etc., etc. And yet here we are, 1 match into the new season with a vast amount of improvement. So it's not as if things weren't moving. They are. But Rome wasn't built in a day.
Sure. Yeah, that's the big phrase. Yeah, exactly. Okay, big thank you to our sponsor, Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. You can find them at 304 Old Durham Road, Gateshead. Telephone 0191 478 273 or email Darren directly at darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Website www.darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or by telephone at 01768 210 102. Thanks to Away Day Clothing and Media Arts for the help with the video side of things, and at qtechshop.co.uk to make us pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify, and the rest usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. If you want to join us, then you can click join under YouTube, or you can join the cult by going to NUFCmatters.com, and you will get a scarf, a pen, a cup, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. If you've got a smartphone, use the QR code. It takes you straight there. We also send a free car sticker out to anyone who subscribes. Simply email John at NUFCmatters.com and he will post you one out. We also support the food bank on this show, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is virtual and you can make a donation there 365 days of the year. So please help the food bank today. Don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School is still running throughout August. You can find all the information you need at peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. And lots coming up on NUFC Matters over the next few weeks. And Mick Lowes will be joining me tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to look back on Newcastle United's game. Double header tomorrow because I'll be back at 6 with Neil Mitchell and Stu Penman for an episode of The Professionals. Looking forward to reuniting with the guys again. And then on Monday, it'll be back with Joe and the Transfer Update Show. Tuesday night, slight change of plan for the next couple of weeks with Ross Gregory having a bit of time off, will be Ben. So join me and Ben at Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Happy birthday as well to Alan Shearer. He has a blast from the past. The very first day that I met Alan Shearer at the old St. James's Park entrance for the players when I was doing the number 9 fanzine. And I interviewed him a couple of weeks after he'd signed as a Newcastle United player. But a big happy birthday to Alan. And I mean, lots of memories about Alan Shearer. He's still sitting there at the top of the tree, Malcolm, isn't he? What we could do with an Alan Shearer right now, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great finisher he was. My word. And he was a terrific leader, I think, both Newcastle and England, of course. And there was no messing with Alan. I don't think that he was as straight and direct as you could ever wish to be. And he took an incredible attitude out onto the pitch, and it was a real winning attitude at all times, and it rubbed off on others.
John, Alan Shearer, you covered him, of course, as a journalist for the Evening Chronicle. Have you got a favourite goal, John?
Wonderful player, and I travelled with England when he was skipping England as well, so very special. I think it's home at the Gallagher end. Was it Leicester or Everton?
Everton.
I know the one you're talking of, John, because I was going to say that exactly the same. If asked
swiveled and boom. In the top. Oh, I mean,
into the far top corner.
Absolutely terrific. And but he was one of those centre forwards, like the quality. He didn't score. He wasn't like Malcolm going to go 200 miles an hour.
He didn't have the pace, did he?
But pass people and score because he didn't have that pace.
Yeah.
But what he did, he scored not the sort of goals Jimmy Greaves scored, but Malcolm will know what I'm talking about. The close in dagger thrust. He would be in the penalty area, and that was like a back lane of flick knives, the penalty area, because everybody's trying to do everybody else and create a bit of space. And he was a killer in that situation.
Yes, he
and
was.
He scored some outstanding goals. And everybody talks about at the end of the 90s when we got the 2 cup finals and we lost them both. We had Manchester United and Arsenal, one going for the double and one going for the treble. It couldn't have been order. We lost them both. But I always remember we got to the cup final because in both those semi-finals, Shearer scored the winning goal. And that, as Malcolm did in 74 when we played Burnley. And that's what great centre-forwards do. And he was a great centre-forward. And one of the tragedies for centre-forwards that is followed is because I'm an old sod, I've actually seen Jackie Milburn, SUPERMAC and Alan Shearer, which is why I find it very difficult to watch some centre-forwards I'm forced to watch wearing black and white now. Callum Wilson apart, I hasten to add, because he makes me feel half comfortable again. But perhaps I'm more critical of some centre-forwards Newcastle have had because I've seen the creme de la creme. And you know, once you've had cream in the top of your coffee, you don't want black coffee anymore.
You mean you didn't see Hughie Gallagher, John?
It's funny you should say that. because everybody thinks I must have done. I actually saw him as a person before he died on the railway line, but I didn't actually see him play. And I'm just a bit buggered off by that. I would have had to be about 120, I think, to have seen him play. But I wish I had, because can you imagine a 5'4" centre forward?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, John.
Centre halves were terrified of him, and he was 5'4". They were terrified of him physically. I mean, which is quite incredible. But listen, let's not go on about the great centre forwards, as I'll be still crying in my beer by the time we kick off this afternoon against Brighton.
Yeah, no doubt about that at all. Lots of hope, I guess, this season on a cup run, Malcolm. And Newcastle have been drawn in the second round of the League Cup away to Tranmere Rovers, Wednesday, August the 24th. The game is going to be live on Sky Sports. A good cup run. I think it's the one thing we'll hope for, and that's the cup, I think, Newcastle really should focus a lot of attention on. Mal, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Steve. What I don't want to see is Eddie Howe, like managers previously have done, where they sort of completely changed the side. They've chucked out half a reserve side. I want to give them a run out, and basically sacrifice the place in the competition to give reserves a run out. That for me is so wrong, that if they want to run out, they've got to earn a place, and not just be given it. And I want to see Newcastle United attacking every single round of both cup competitions and going for Wembley. And it would be lovely to see Newcastle United back at Wembley, and it would be even greater if we were to see them win there. But yeah, let's have some cup runs, please.
Yeah,
and no losing to Cambridge United and stuff and nonsense like that.
Yeah, John, cup runs. I mean, there's nothing better, is there? But as a football fan.
We as a club have always been built on cup runs. I mean, we were spoiled at the beginning of the 50s 3 times in 5 years. I think we've won the FA Cup 6 times. We've appeared in loads and loads of more finals, going way back to the Edwardian teams, etc., etc. We've always loved the glamour, the sudden death, the matador bit of playing in the cups. And let's also be truthful. We want our club to progress. We haven't won any trophy since '69 in Europe. We haven't won a domestic trophy, and that's what we're talking about here, the League Cup and the FA Cup. 1955. That is, for Newcastle United, absolutely flipping ludicrous. And I keep emphasising, while the domestic cups have been somewhat diluted in recent years because of the Champions League and the Europa League and whatever, and the finances of getting in the top 4, our only chance of winning a trophy is to win the FA Cup or the League Cup. That's it. And we hope that changes eventually under the new setup, but it ain't going to change this season or next season. Our only chance of winning something is the FA Cup or the League Cup. So let us do it. Let us go out there and do it. What I don't want is what happened last season. In the League Cup, we lost at home on penalties to Burnley, who were relegated at the end of the season. We went out at the first hurdle at home. In the FA Cup, we went out at the first hurdle at home to a League One side, Cambridge United. So we lost to Burnley at home and Cambridge at home in the 2 cups last season. I do not want that to happen this season.
No, and embarrassingly, John, Cambridge United they absolutely murdered the Newcastle team.
They did. Having said that, I mean, I can understand why Tranmere has been taken by Sky, because Tranmere are a club, as a smaller club, they're League Two, but they have some history. They've got some history. They're from Liverpool, who love their football. They've got some pride. They love the idea of a resurgent Newcastle United, who are on the up and up, coming to their ground, chance of a little bit of glory for them, full house, etc., etc. We will take all our allocation of tickets, even though it's a League Cup and not the Premier League. We will fill one end of that ground with our fans. There's new optimism amongst our fans. They want to win a trophy. They'll pile down there. It is potentially a terrific match. Now, I'm like Malcolm. I don't want to see sides that are put out that are so badly diluted with fringe players that they then get tucked up. There are certain players in the first team squad that could go on and play at Tranmere and we should still win. Dubrovka instead of Pope would be an example. Kraft could play in the side. One of the other centre halves, Lascelles or Botman, with the two we've already got, could play. Sean Longstaff could play in the middle of the park. Elliot Anderson could really play. He dominated League Two last season with Bristol Rovers and got them promotion as their star man. And this is League Two opposition. But you've still got to have a cutting edge. I would still want to see Callum Wilson instead of Wood play. But I don't think I will, because you won't risk Wilson getting injured in case he's out for 3 months. But we've got to go to win this, because it's a good draw for us. There's no question about that. And we've got to go on and try to win a trophy, because we ain't going to win the Premier League. Yes, we want to finish 7th or 8th or 9th, and that would be terrific. But wouldn't it also be terrific to come back from Wembley with a trophy? You wouldn't top that. And if the new regime or the manager, Eddie Howe, wants to see what this town's like when it's reflecting in a piece of silverware, just let them win one of these trophies and they'll find out what life's about up here.
Well, I always remember, John, on that after the 74 final, when Liverpool had beaten us 3-0, when the two clubs returned to their home cities, Liverpool had 250,000, it was estimated, out in the streets of Liverpool welcoming them back. Here in Newcastle, there was 500,000 plus. It was double the number that was there for Liverpool.
Oh, I mean, it would surprise so many people within the football club to see that. At least I'm pleased to hear Eddie Howe say he would desperately like to win a trophy for Newcastle United. Because
when was the last time a manager said that, John, that you can, a manager of Newcastle? Mike Ashley, who never talked to us for 14 years, only talked to us occasionally to say that he wasn't interested in the 2 domestic trophies. He was only interested in staying in the Premier League, as though the only way to stay in the Premier League was to get yourself knocked out of the domestic cups as quickly as you could. I mean, it was totally absurd. He left me for 14 years with no hope whatsoever, because we weren't going to win the Premier League. I mean, he thought finishing 4th bottom of the Premier League was a victory because we didn't go down. You can't put that on an open top coach and go around the city with it. We finished 4th bottom, let's all go out on the streets and sing and dance. So let us get on with the business at hand and make certain the job's done. And what is it about these people that don't they realise that if you have a winning run in a cup competition, you usually find that you're on a winning streak in playing your league games as well? That you don't start winning in one and losing in the other. It doesn't work that way.
The year, and you will remember, Malcolm, because it involved you, the year we got to the League Cup final, 76, which is the only League Cup final we've ever been to in the history of the club. When we got to that final, that season, we also got to the quarter-final of the FA Cup.
Yes, we did.
We got to the final of the League Cup and the quarter-final of the FA Cup. One was rubbing off on the other as we went along, and the excitement generated was absolutely terrific. And, by the way, in my humble opinion, despite the fact that we had the wrong manager and we used to have the right manager, our performance at Wembley in the 76 League Cup final was pretty decent. That was our best performance at Wembley. If you think of 74, 76, 98, 99. Our best performance at Wembley for me in a cup final was that one where we
absolutely. I would agree with you, John, on that. And and the game was completely turning in the favour of Newcastle. And then Dennis Stewart, a Newcastle United supporter in his youth, suddenly struck an overhead.
I mean, it won 1. I thought we were going to go on and win it.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Dennis, this outrageous overhead kick of Dennis's, and we were confined to the dustbin yet again. Never mind, onwards and upwards, boys. Let's go this afternoon, and let's go at Tranmere.
Yeah, 100%. No, Dave was asking, did I not fancy the trip to Brighton? No, I've been down to London all week. The train strike kiboshed it for me. There was no way in the world I was going to sit in a car for like 6.5, 7 hours there and back. So 14 hours in total after the week away in London. So somebody else is benefiting from my ticket today. I've got plenty of trips ahead though. Andrew Johnson says, in regards to the Scouts, I was at a football competition a couple of weeks ago for my 13-year-old lad. It was held next to Northumbria University. There were Sunderland Scouts there, but no Newcastle Scouts. NUFC Clark, he says the academy system needs looked at altogether. Most don't make it as they aren't used to men's football. You're better off starting off non-league and working your way up the leagues. And Graham says root and branch was being called for years. We now have it. Patience is a virtue. But I mean, lots of comments coming in about the academy. And Clark, he also points out that Dan Ashworth's done wonders with the FA, so give them time with the scouting, etc. Which is a great point. Okay, got 9 minutes left. Newcastle, of course, away to Brighton today at the Amex Stadium. It's a 3:00 kickoff, so no live TV transmission. It's a return to Brighton, as Gibbo mentioned earlier, for Dan Byrne and, of course, our new sporting director, Dan Ashworth. They will certainly have the welcome mat out for both of those guys. There is a weather warning that we need to make clear to everybody. It's going to be 32 degrees, so please make sure if you are going to the game today, you're on your way down and listening to the show, that you take good care, cover up, and stay in the shade when possible. Don't drink to excess either. In this heat, it can cause an absolute nightmare for anybody. And of course, those who are on the way down will either be making it by car or will have gone earlier, but the train strike is on. Drivers are on strike, so a lot of services affected today. Gibbo gave us the exclusive this morning. Nick Pope has a knock. Not 100% sure whether he will feature or not today. John Joe Shelvey, as we've already mentioned, is unavailable now for at least 3 months due to injury. Javier Manquillo, Jamal Lewis and Federico Fernandez, though, are all back in training. Jamal Lascelles is expected to return to the squad too, but Emil Kraft is still out. Referee today, Graham Scott, the Oxfordshire official, last took charge of a Newcastle game against Wolves in the 2-1 defeat in October, which was the final game of Mike Ashley's reign as Newcastle owner. VAR, which is often switched off for Newcastle United, is Craig Pawson. And yes, it's a tough game, this one, Mal. From my perspective, Brighton, of course, came up with Newcastle. Newcastle as champions, Brighton as runners up, and they've done well. They've progressed under good management. Potter's done very well, but of course Dan Ashworth's had a lot to do with it behind the scenes. But it's a tough game. This, how do you see this one going, Mal?
It is a tough game, very tough game. They are one hell of a footballing side, are Brighton, and it's going to be a complete contrast to what Newcastle faced last Saturday against Nottingham Forest. And so they really do have to be on their toes. Albeit the Newcastle back line, it looked very solid last Saturday. It will certainly need to be exactly that today. I think we need to see more positive things from Almiron. In a game like this afternoon, the pace and the ability of Almiron to run on the ball and St. Maximin as well, but it needs end product. And that's what Almiron is failing to do. What I noticed last week with regards to St Maximin, that where he was just going on mazy runs and just doing nothing but mazy runs all over, that he's starting to lay the ball off around the penalty area, in and out of the penalty area, and that's setting all sorts of things up, we were starting to look a lot more dangerous by him releasing the ball instead of just constantly running it. But I'm afraid that Almiron, he needs to follow suit. We need to see Almiron making goal chances and having shots at goal at the end of his runs. If I keep saying that if they were to open the gates at the end of the ground, it run through and finish up running down Northumberland Street, for heaven's sake, without realising he'd left the stadium, because his head's down and he's not aware of what's going on around. These two players, they can be absolute match winners in a game like today, but they've got to get the release in and around the penalty area. Absolutely spot on.
John, your take on today's game? How do you think Newcastle will line up? Do you think there'll be any changes? We know that we could have an enforced one in goal, but do you think you might have gone for an unchanged team?
Outside of that, and Pope will start if he's 100%. I think it'll be exactly the same team because. As I said, they're not going to drop either Shaw or Burns. Shaw's won the goal. Burns going back to Brighton and has deserved his place on his last game, so Botman's not going to get in. Willock did terrific in midfield for me to hold off Sean Longstaff again and get that position. And he will play with Wilson and St Maximum and Almiron, rather than start with Fraser or Murphy at this stage. So I'm expecting the same team. Brighton are just unbelievable. As a club, they are unbelievable. I mean, they this summer have sold 2 quality players, got £83 million, and you would think have severely reduced the capability of their side, and they go to Manchester United, where they've never won in their history, and play them off the park. I mean, the first half was embarrassing. Now, back in January, they lost Byrne, a great player at the back, to Newcastle United. They lost Dan Ashworth, that finds all the good players, to Newcastle United. In the finished 9th top, despite that the highest have been. In the season before that, they sold the player of the year, White, to Arsenal, the guy at the back. They just sell all the great players and then get better and better. It is quite ludicrous. They have a feeder club that actually blossoms in results, and that is defiant. That is against all the laws that there's possible to be. I mean, that win at Manchester United was the 4th successive time that Brighton under Potter has won the first away game of the season in the top flight. And these other 3 wins included one at St James's Park. So, I mean, Potter's terrific. There's absolutely no question about that. This is a fascinating duel between 2 wonderfully talented young managers in Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, without a shadow of doubt. And they've got a lovely balance to their side, while they've got all these young players that every other club wants. Lamptey, we can remember him playing up here, the right back. The kid that got out at Chelsea, who looked sensational, well, he got a bad injury. They've still got him. But balanced on the other side of the coin, they've got golden oldies like Welbeck and Lallana, who are both supposed to be finished, by the way, with a stack of England caps each. I think Welbeck's got 40-odd and Lallana's got 30-odd. Quality players in that time, but supposedly finished by injury and allowed then to drift off and eventually get to Brighton. Welbeck terrified Manchester United on his return to Old Trafford, and Lallana just pinged the ball about all over the place. Malcolm has said how beautiful the side they ought to watch. On their second goal, they picked up the ball in the left-hand corner flag. They were defending the goal, left-hand corner flag, in 4 passes in 18 seconds. The ball was in the Manchester United penalty area, and they were finishing for a goal. That is the sort of approach they have. I think these two sides today, outside of the accepted Champions League sides, or maybe the top 6, these are two of the most attractive sides left in the Premier League after you take off the top of the Premier League, Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, etc., Arsenal maybe, the new Arsenal. These are the two attractive sides. So it's going to be terrific. And it's a corker. It really is a corker that you could make a case out for Brighton, you could make a case out for Newcastle, and you can make a case out for a draw.
Yeah, okay. Prediction time. I'm going 1-1, chaps. I think it'll be a very technical game. I don't think there'll be a great deal of goal-mouth action, and I think the defences will come out on top, but I'm going for a goal apiece, 1-1. Malcolm, what about you?
Yeah, I think there will be goals, but not a great many. And I'm inclined to go exactly the same as you, Steve. Go 1-1.
And I'll be happy with that. That.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I might have to go 2-2, and otherwise we're going to have 3-1-1s. And by the way, if it is 1-1, why not? We can be right 3 times. We can be right 3 times. I think it'll be a draw, and a draw will be a good result.
Absolutely. Never knock an away draw.
No, and especially at Brighton. If I was going to Nottingham Forest, I might want to win, Malcolm. But if I'm going to Brighton,
win your home games and don't lose your away games.
A draw would be a terrific result. And we're quite capable of doing that. The wonderful thing is that we're quite capable of doing most things these days. It doesn't mean we'll do them automatically, but we're capable of doing them. And it's wonderful. I mean, I'm actually watching Newcastle every week, and I'm not concerned about we're going down. And that it's taken a decade and a half since I was able to say that at the start of the season.
And I was just thinking that 12 months ago, instead of saying 1-1, I would have been saying Brighton will run riot.
Well, absolutely. And over the first 14 games, every side against us did run riot.
Yes.
I mean, we waited 14 games we waited 1 game this season to get our first win. So happy bunny. Let's go down, get a result then, and let's keep going in the cups. Happier days than I've been used to in a long time.
Fantastic, lads. As always, we will be back with John and with Malcolm next Thursday. Business as usual. But for now, have a great weekend. Enjoy the match if you're there, or enjoy the match if you're watching it. And Malcolm, John, pleasure as always, lads.
Lovely. Have a lovely weekend and enjoy the game this afternoon.
Take care, boys. Keep the faith.